The grand ballroom of the city's most luxurious hotel sparkled beneath crystal chandeliers. Elegant guests stepped out of expensive cars wearing designer gowns, tailored tuxedos, and dazzling jewelry. Laughter echoed through the hall as business executives, celebrities, investors, and influential families gathered for the annual charity gala hosted by Castillo Technologies, one of the country's most successful companies. The event was more than a celebration. Every year it raised millions of dollars to build schools and provide scholarships for underprivileged children. It was also an opportunity for the city's elite to display their wealth and social status. Near the entrance stood Valeria Castillo, the glamorous wife of CEO Alejandro Castillo. She greeted every guest with a polished smile, accepting compliments on her stunning gown and elegant appearance. To everyone watching, she looked confident and gracious. Inside, however, jealousy had been growing for days. Earlier that week she had seen Alejandro speaking with a young employee after a meeting. They had been discussing a company education program, but from a distance the conversation had seemed warm and friendly. Valeria convinced herself there had to be something more. Instead of asking her husband about it, she decided to embarrass the young woman publicly. Invite Elena Morales to the gala, she instructed Alejandro's assistant. Every employee should have the chance to attend. The assistant found the request unusual, but invitations from the CEO's office were never questioned. When Elena received the elegant envelope, she stared at it in disbelief. She worked in customer support and earned an ordinary salary. Every month she carefully divided her paycheck between rent, groceries, and helping her widowed mother and younger brother. She had never attended an event filled with millionaires. Her coworkers encouraged her to go. You deserve it. You've worked harder than anyone. It'll be a once-in-a-lifetime experience. After much hesitation, Elena accepted. She borrowed a simple navy blue dress from her elderly neighbor, who happily insisted she keep it for the evening. She carefully styled her own hair, wore only a pair of small pearl earrings that had belonged to her grandmother, and arrived at the hotel in an old taxi. As she entered the ballroom, she immediately felt out of place. Conversations paused for a moment as guests noticed the simply dressed young woman. Some smiled politely, others looked away. Valeria approached with perfect elegance. "Elena," she said warmly enough for others to hear. "I'm so glad you came. Thank you for inviting me. We wanted every employee to experience how successful people celebrate." The sentence sounded kind. The meaning behind it did not. Valeria guided Elena toward a small circle of wealthy women. "This is Elena. She works in customer service." One woman smiled. "How wonderful." Another looked at Elena's dress. "It has such a classic style." A third added with a grin, "Sometimes simple is refreshing." The group exchanged quiet laughs. Elena understood exactly what they meant. She forced a polite smile. "I'm happy to be here because of the charity." Valeria raised an eyebrow. Of course. Throughout the evening the subtle insults continued. One guest asked if Elena had ever attended a five-star dinner before. Another wondered aloud whether she knew which utensils to use. Someone admired her earrings before asking if they were imitation pearls. Every comment was carefully disguised as harmless conversation. No one openly insulted her. Yet every word carried the same message. "You don't belong here." Elena remained calm. She refused to answer with anger. Instead she admired the decorations, spoke kindly to the hotel staff, and listened with genuine interest whenever someone discussed the educational projects the gala supported. Across the ballroom, Alejandro was occupied meeting investors and donors. He had no idea what was happening. At one point Elena stepped onto the terrace overlooking the city lights. She considered leaving. Perhaps she should quietly call another taxi and return home. No one would notice. Then she remembered the purpose of the evening. Children would receive better schools because of this event. That mattered far more than wounded pride. She walked back inside. Near the entrance stood the donation table where guests quietly placed envelopes before dinner. Elena removed one from her purse. She slipped it into the donation box without saying a word. The accountant collecting envelopes glanced at it only because it felt unusually heavy. Inside was not cash. It contained legal documents. His eyes widened. He immediately carried the envelope to the finance director. Within minutes several organizers gathered together, whispering with expressions of disbelief. Meanwhile dinner began. Valeria continued entertaining guests. She deliberately included Elena in conversations designed to embarrass her. "So Elena," she asked with a bright smile, "where do you usually spend your vacations?" "I stay with my family." "No trips to Europe?" Elena smiled gently. "My happiest memories aren't connected to expensive places." Someone chuckled. "And shopping?" I only buy what I need. Valeria laughed lightly. That's certainly one way to save money. Several guests joined her laughter. Elena quietly sipped her water. She noticed one of the waiters accidentally drop a tray while serving another table. People frowned. Some complained. Elena immediately stood, helped collect the broken dishes, and asked whether the young waiter had cut himself. He smiled gratefully. I'm fine, miss. Good, she replied. Accidents happen. The waiter never forgot her kindness. Dinner concluded, and Alejandro stepped onto the stage. He thanked every guest for supporting children's education. Our company believes success has value only when it creates opportunities for others. The audience applauded warmly. He invited the finance director to announce the evening's largest donations. Third place received enthusiastic applause. Second place received even louder applause. Then the director paused. There is one contribution unlike anything we've ever received. The ballroom became completely silent. This donor requested anonymity. Curiosity spread across the room. However, after discussing it with Mr. Castillo, we believe this extraordinary act deserves recognition. Alejandro nodded. The director unfolded the documents. This donation establishes a permanent educational trust valued at more than $5 million. Gasps echoed across the ballroom. Everyone immediately looked toward the wealthiest guests. Surely one of them had made such an incredible gift. The director smiled. The donor is Elena Morales. Silence filled the room. Every head turned toward the young woman in the borrowed navy blue dress. Valeria's face turned pale. The women who had mocked Elena moments earlier stared in disbelief. Alejandro himself looked shocked. He stepped down from the stage. Miss Morales, would you join me? Elena slowly walked forward while the audience rose to its feet. The applause lasted nearly a minute. Alejandro smiled respectfully. May I ask why you wished to remain anonymous? Elena looked at the crowd. My grandfather built a small publishing business many years ago. She held the microphone carefully. When he passed away, he left everything in a family trust. My mother told me that inheritance wasn't meant to make us feel important. It was meant to create opportunities for others. The ballroom remained silent. I continued working because I wanted to live an ordinary life. I wanted people to know me for my character, not my bank account. She smiled softly. When my father died, volunteers helped me continue my education. Without strangers believing in me, I would never have graduated. She looked around the room. This donation simply returns the kindness that someone once showed my family. Many guests wiped away tears. Even the photographers lowered their cameras for a moment. Alejandro extended his hand. Tonight you've reminded all of us what generosity truly means. The applause became louder than before. After the ceremony, guests rushed toward Elena. The same people who had ignored her now introduced themselves politely. Business leaders asked to support her educational foundation. Journalists requested interviews. Teachers thanked her personally. She greeted everyone with the same humble smile. Later, Valeria approached alone. Her confidence had disappeared. I'm sorry. Elena looked at her quietly. I judged you before I knew you. I measured your worth by your clothes. I embarrassed you. Her voice trembled. I was wrong. Elena remained silent for several seconds. My grandfather once told me something I'll never forget. Valeria listened carefully. He said that if someone needs expensive clothes to feel superior, then they are poorer than the person wearing ordinary shoes with a kind heart. Tears filled Valeria's eyes. I understand that now. I hope so, Elena replied gently. Because respect should never depend on someone's appearance. Alejandro soon joined them. He had finally learned everything that had happened throughout the evening. Looking directly at his wife, he spoke calmly. Our company talks about integrity every day. We must live by those words. Valeria lowered her head. I know. The following Monday Alejandro announced several important changes throughout the company. Every employee, regardless of position, would receive equal respect during corporate events. Leadership training would focus on humility, empathy, and inclusion. Executives would regularly meet with frontline employees to hear their ideas directly. Scholarship programs expanded dramatically with Elena's support. Within a few years, dozens of learning centers opened across the country. Thousands of children gained access to books, computers, tutors, and opportunities their families could never have afforded. Each building displayed a simple message near the entrance. Knowledge changes lives. Kindness changes hearts. Valeria quietly began volunteering every weekend at one of the new schools. She never told anyone who she was. She helped children read books, served meals during community events, and slowly earned something she had never gained through wealth alone. Respect. As for Elena, she eventually left her corporate job to dedicate herself entirely to expanding the educational foundation. Although she could have lived a life of luxury, she continued wearing simple clothes, treating everyone equally, and remembering the lesson her grandfather had taught her. People often asked why she never displayed her fortune. She would simply smile and answer, "The richest people are not those who own the most. They are the ones who leave the world better than they found it." And everyone who remembered that remarkable evening agreed that the woman wearing the borrowed dress had been the most extraordinary person in the ballroom from the moment she walked through the door.